recently sent a link to an article about some of the good that Vtubing has done in these last couple years, where it's really kind of kicked off and really hit its own stride as a streaming genre, honestly, or just a content genre in general. Not terribly long of an article. I'm going to be reading over it before I share my thoughts. I might share a little as I read it, but we shall take a look. It was posted to the rightsblog.net. Oh wow, back at... Okay, not terribly long ago, a few months ago, back on December 19th. And it's titled, "Vtubing has opened the door for underserved communities." We start off, what is a Vtuber? At the beginning of 2022, humans spent online 12.5 trillion hours. Out of 8 billion people in the world, almost 5 billion are active social media users. Among them, we find Vtubers. A Vtuber, or virtual YouTuber, is a live streamer, a YouTuber who usually uses digital modeling, motion capture, and other computer-generated imaging to create a virtual character. Instead of posting his or her... Why do you put all those pronouns in there? Like, thank you for showing you're inclusive, but just use they. When you're talking about groups of people, please just use they. Instead of posting their videos with their own faces, they use avatars as their virtual selves. While with the growing popularity of Vtubing, especially in Japan and the US, it could be interesting, as with the new technologies in general, to ask whether and how this can be used to restore or protect marginalized people's human rights. Looking for an answer, we will focus on some artists, get to know them, and understand how they use their avatars. By reading their stories, it will become evident how the possibility of using a digital substitute allows for more active involvement of people with disabilities, but also for more protection of the privacy in those dangerous lines of work. Interesting framing that it is a dangerous line of work, because there is very much the possibility that people are going to out your information and then send stuff at you. I will be talking on this subject a little more pointedly in the future, but not at this time. I'm focused on this article. Vtubing's impact on people with disabilities. Let us start with focusing on the impact Vtubing might have on people with disabilities by considering the case of US Vtuber Ironmouse. Ironmouse is now one of the most popular female live streamers in the world and is part of the Vtuber organization VShojo, based in San Francisco. The person behind Ironmouse has an autoimmune disorder, common variable immune deficiency, which means she is extremely susceptible to viral and bacterial infections, which limits her freedom of movement. I wasn't actually aware of that. Her disability caused her, like many others who face severe disability, to forfeit her dreams of becoming a classically trained singer. In fact, she had to sacrifice all things requiring going outdoors. She has spent most of her life in her room, and many friendships she has centered around her disability. It is just... I'm glad that this is actually... Gotham, I love you, but please let me focus. I'm definitely glad this is taking time to shine light on how limiting such disabilities can be for people. Yet, through Vtubing, she has managed to take her freedom back. although partially. In an interview with YouTuber Anthony Padilla, she stated how once she became bedridden, she began to feel less than a human, a feeling that has since changed. As she says, "Since I started VTubing, this has brought meaning to my life again. I felt like a human for the first time." Most recently, she was able to virtually attend a fan meetup in the popular streaming platform, TwitchCon. Here, she and her fans could move past an otherwise impossible barrier and meet each other virtually, or meet each other virtually avatar to faces. Also, Ironmouse was able to meet her friend she made by VTubing and even achieve a previously impossible dream of holding a concert where she can sing through her virtual avatar. Jesus Christ, that actually really warms my heart. I'm really glad to hear that. I've been loosely aware of Ironmouse. I've watched through some of her clips, but I haven't really dived into her community or really looked into her. I've always held her positively in my mind. And I'm actually really glad that she's been able to take that control of her life back. Vtubing and the protection of privacy. Privacy protection has generated growing concerns in the last decade, and it is precisely the interest in protecting their privacy that pushed VTubers to use a digital model, instead of using their faces and bodies to post their content, especially when it is explicit. That framing does kind of paint it as every VTuber does it for that reason. Personally, I use a VTuber because I think it's kind of fun. My face is not a secret. Look at my oldest videos. Go to my Twitter and search hashtag VTuber versus IRL. My face is not a secret. But that is not the case for, actually, I would say most VTubers. Most VTubers do actually want to keep that sense of distance between their platform and their IRL life. Let us take Projekt Melody as an example. Projekt Melody originally debuted as an independent streamer on porn live streaming website Chaturbate on February 8th, 2022. Presented as a digital model of a sentient AI that became infatuated with porn, love the concept. Besides getting instantaneous success on Valentine's Day through a website donation system, Melody has been a major player in humanizing sex work. Sex workers have constantly faced defacement and frequently dealt with assault. This is very much true. It definitely needs to be brought more into the mainstream, or more into discourse. Yet via Vtubing, Projekt Melody helps to completely mask sex workers' identity from potential harassers. In addition, despite her avatar not being real, her fans do not view her as a human being rather than a sexual object. It appears evident from users' comments. Surely, Melody still does face harassment online, sometimes even by fans who have developed parasocial relationships with her. Still, this appears to be less distressing for people behind the project than if they were the direct targets of the abuse. At the same time, there is another advantage of using virtual selves to live stream. The easier migration of other platforms and content. For instance, Melody is successfully transferred to non-adult industries on YouTube and Twitch with enough success to join a mainstream company. Nonetheless, even though Melody has the option of leaving sex work thanks to Vtubing's anonymity, she still faces discrimination in her initial career choice. For example, a collaboration with another prominent VTuber, Kiryu Kuko, was shut down by her company Hololive once they learned about Melody's adult content. not all that shines is gold. The dangers of VTubing. I do think that they wanted to turn that into a title. Okay, I thought they were going to continue on a bit. Okay, they actually are. Both Projekt Melody and Ironmouse have been good examples of what Vtubing can and has done for so many. However, just like any tool, Vtubing can be used in abusive ways. While anonymity protects privacy and shields from abusive behavior, it can also allow sex traffickers, targeting minors in particular, to cover their tracks through virtual models and get away with their crimes. I am not surprised with the prominence of lolicon content in the VTuber community. I want to push back against that more. In addition, this technology, readily available through virtual reality games, has first been used by a public of minors and has allowed them to encounter sexually explicit contents by masking their age with their avatar of choice. While there are surely pros in anybody possibly being anybody, it is evident how this brings serious issues with this. Indeed, many children and concerned adults have already reported minors having experienced grooming by adults online. So if the internet has always been a dangerous place for minors, unregulated VTubing could surely exacerbate problems before adequate protections could be put in place. I am not a big fan of this framing. It's very fear-mongery to me. That's the vibe I'm getting. I do think there's something to be said about minors in online spaces. Should they even be allowed? I do think so. But I do think we need to have proper verifications in place to ensure that users of platforms focused on adult content require age verification, because, you know, it is adult content. There is definitely conversation to be had about this. I also want to look into this more. VR chat being used to groom children. That is something I'm going to be looking into off a stream after this. A tool for change. While VTubing remains an expensive medium that can only virtually bring people with disabilities to places not physically accessible to them, it's not expensive if you do it right. It is a viable and precious tool to remove the personal embarrassment often associated with showing one's body in a world where differences are not always cherished, protecting people from direct bullying. At the same time, precisely by granting that anonymity, VTubing protects one's privacy to a degree that other forms of virtual sharing do not. For communities that face constant discrimination, such as among others, members of the trans community, or the already mentioned people with disability, VTubing can be a safe space to express themselves in the way they want. Still, VTubing brings with it certain risks, so people hope that this technology is able to evolve and support many more people, just as it did for Ironmouse and Projekt Melody, while preventing abusive behaviors and putting in place the proper regulations to protect minors from harassment and grooming. I'm going to assume they meant grooming there. Elvino de Silveira, they, them, is a senior college student in political science, economics, and pre-law at American University of Washington. They are the author of this article, and I am actually overall glad that they wrote this. This has brought pretty good insight into this. Though I do have issue with the framing of that bottom there. It is a topic that does need to be discussed. Another thing I'm gonna mention is that Vtubing is not an expensive medium. I will say that I have... How much have I spent on content creation? $10? Yeah, no, to start, I didn't spend a penny. I used my camera as or my phone as a webcam for my basic face tracking. Actually, no, I started as a PNG tuber with the free pic crew that I made. And then I made a VTuber, Vroid. Because there's programs to actually make these models yourself. I actually have a video on that. You should check it out. I don't think it's very good though, but I mean, there are definitely better tutorials out there. I'm just saying I do have one. But yeah, I like this article. I would like to look more into this into the future. I definitely want to showcase more positive effects of the VTuber community, because I will acknowledge that I have focused a fair bit on negative content for a bit. Though, and I am unfortunately going to have to engage with more of it in the future, but it's just kind of politics. Politics suck, but they affect us all, whether we like it or not.